Zach, what's the best way to start a movie?
The best way to start a movie is with some guys in the woods with some cool guns and some fog and some smoke. That's the best way to start a movie. Every movie.
That's the way how Harry Met Sally starts. Is he's got a gun in the woods and he's bleeding and scared. Honestly, writing that opening to Hypnagogia, I was like, is this too clickbaity? Right?
No, that's perfect.
Yeah,
and clearly
it's perfect.
looking...
in an opening, you have to grab the audience, right? Because are they going to watch past the first 10 minutes if it's boring? I mean, only if they're down for a boring movie, right?
And I would, but I think your average person,
yeah.
I think you're onto something.
So, it's they usually say the first 10 pages of a script.
Mm-hmm.
That's your window in with which to capture people.
Right. And I think, like, isn't there a story about how, like, producers will choose a script and they'll only read the first 10 minutes, and if it hasn't grabbed them by then, they
honestly,
just, like, ditch the whole thing?
Honestly, for like modern audiences, it really should be the first 5 minutes. We're raised on like channel flipping now, and then there's the iPad baby resplendent.
Yeah, it's gotten even worse. Yeah.
My supervisor at work, he was talking to me and he was like, yeah, we were watching RRR, which is, that like Indian Bollywood action film that's just packed to the gills with insane scenes. And he's like, yeah, we just skipped through like the boring stuff for my son. And I was like,
dang,
like, your son's,
did you even watch the movie at that point?
I mean, like, okay, yeah, action scene to action scene. You're murdering the pacing, but it's like, is he really so like attention starved is the wrong word. Is he so like no attention span that you can't even like have a lull between two very engaging action scenes?
For sure.
I don't know, but 10 pages for your producers, probably the first 5 for your audience. That's like where really you have like to sell your entire movie, be it to somebody to actually watch it or just to somebody to get it made. That's like, so your kind of golden window. So we'll talk a little bit more about that. But before we get into that, Zach, I do have a question for you.
Shoot. What's
the most insane, the most unconventional lighting setup you've used to light a shot?
I don't know. Like, I'm a very conventional guy. So I do things kind of by the book, your book light, literally by the book.
By the
3-point lighting, natural light. But the most insane thing I've probably done is not that crazy if you've watched like a Bo Burnham movie, but I've used a phone to like light a scene. So I've like used like someone's like on their phone and the light from the screen is like the only thing lighting them. It's pretty good. Obviously, I'm not the first person to do that, but I have done it. And it's kind of cool and minimal. Yeah. And it gets really cool when you put haze in a can everywhere.
Yeah, haze. Another plug for our good friend Haze in a can.
What about you? Like,
I used an LED headlamp.
That's smart.
I've never even used that footage, but like it looked good. It was a green LED headlamp. So I just kind of held it real high up and shot the back of the car. Oh, so you were just
using it as your light source. Gotcha.
Yeah, that was my light source.
I was thinking something more like found footage, like POV. Because I've seen some movies like that where it was like headlamp. You know what I mean?
Yeah. No, it was just my light source. I was filming my car. Held it real high up.
Nice.
That's
all you need. You just need a small little pocket-sized light.
I think I posted a picture of it. It was not a bright one either. It was like a cheap dollar store level. But I think the only footage I used was I took a screenshot and posted it to Instagram. It might still be up on there somewhere. But like it was a great shot. I liked it a lot. I just never did anything with the project.
Bummer. You got to show your art, dude.
I do. I'm bad about that.
See. No, me too.
So what inspired you this week, Zach?
Dude, okay, so we haven't posted an episode for the past 2 weeks. We're like two weeks behind. And
it's fine.
About 70% of the reason is because I took no initiative. I was like, I'm not even gonna ask Mateo about the episode this week because I'm like kind of holding out for not doing an episode because I'm kind of obsessed with a particular video game that you may or may not have heard about. Like Clear Obscure Expedition 33. Have you heard about it?
I've heard a little bit. I get rumblings from various friends who are more hardcore gamers than I am.
Dude, it is Expedition 33 is probably the best video game I've ever played.
Okay.
And I played the whole thing in about 2 weeks and put about 80 hours into it.
Nice.
It was very good. If you don't know, it's a turn-based RPG with like some quick time
You love your RPGs.
action. Yeah,
Is
I
it
do.
a JRPG
I
or
do.
just a normal RPG?
No, it's a French RPG.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, but it's very JRPG inspired.
Okay.
But it's made in Unreal Engine, so the art style is like more realistic. Like
Mhm.
it's more it feels like a modern video game. It's not like
Yeah.
overly stylized.
Yeah, it's not
Um,
like an 8-bit, whatever.
Yeah, it's not that, and it's
Original
not like
Pokemon.
not like cyberpunk,
Mhm.
that kind of aesthetic.
Oh, I did like Cyberpunk.
Cyberpunk is good. I haven't actually played it. I know when it came out, I was like kind of like, like people aren't saying good things about it, and then it was one of those games where it got better with time.
Yeah.
Like
One of those games where
they
you
fixed
wait
stuff.
5 years and it's like, oh wow, they just put out they put out a DLC that's really built it up,
Mhm.
made the story
They
better.
fixed
It's
the
funny.
bugs, yeah, which is
I
a bad
played
trend.
it-
But yeah,
Played it heavily in 2023, so that's my phase. But
but to Expedition
Obscure.
33, because you're the only person I've talked to about this, so other than Emily, but it's such a like heart-wrenching story. It doesn't miss. Like the voice acting, it has Andy Serkis in it. He plays like
okay,
one
so
of
you
the,
know that
like,
the voice acting's gonna go crazy.
Yeah, I'm playing a different game right now. It's a small indie game. It's really fun. It's called Slay the Princess. A lot of voice acting, and it's all right, but like most voice acting in video games is just not that great. Expedition 33 just feels like you're watching a Hollywood blockbuster for 80 hours straight. Like it doesn't miss. Like every inflection, every single line is delivered flawlessly. The writing at no point feels like kind of cringy or on the nose. Like it's super grounded, super believable. Like the characters all make sense as characters. Like there's tons of subtext that doesn't make sense until later on in the story. Like it's flawless. And I talked before about like my preference with storytelling. So I've kind of I haven't really known what to call it, but I'll call it it's sort of
Taste.
it's my favorite kind of story is a bit of a high concept mystery. So I've mentioned this before about like Junji Ito. I never really knew what to call it. You kind of called it like Kafka-esque,
Yeah.
which I haven't read Kafka, so I don't know. But we'll say yeah, it's like that. But I'm kind of describing it now as like a high concept mystery, and Expedition 33 is that. Like it's the basic premise is it's like this slightly steampunk like France, but it's fantasy too. And our characters live in a world where no one lives past the age of 33.
Ah, I see.
And every single year on the same date, everyone who's that age dies. That age or older dies. And so no one lives past the age of 33. They get gommaged, as it's called. So they just like explode into like a rain of flowers. Like
Mhm.
it's beautiful and tragic at the same time. And the reason everyone is dying is because there's an entity across the sea that you can see across the sea. And this entity is called the Paintress, and she paints a number on a monolith. That's the number that, when the gommage happens,
Mhm.
everyone below that age dies. And every single year, the number gets lower and lower. And so,
Or everybody above.
yes, for everyone above it. So the number is descending. The year prior, it was 34. The year before that, it was 35. So we're finally at big number 33. People are starting not to have kids because they're like, oh, this is like, I won't live to see my kids, and they're
Mhm.
going to be born into a world where they won't live past
Yeah.
the age of like 12. Like, what are the ethics of that? There's a lot of orphans in the world because their
Mhm.
parents died
Yeah,
really
yeah,
soon.
they just blew up.
Yeah, so it's some antinatalist themes in there too, which is interesting. Haven't seen a lot of media that's tackled that aside
Other
from
than the news last week or this week.
oh geez, you'll have to tell me about that later.
Yeah.
I don't know anything about that. But the only other piece would be like Attack on Titan. It's very antinatalist theme, which makes sense because I would not
Yeah.
have kids in that world. Like, holy shit. But the basic premise is that there's an expedition every single year, and every single time, like a group of like 30 people set off across the sea to kill the Paintress, because when that happens, maybe the people will stop dying, and no one has ever returned. And so our characters set out on the 33rd expedition, and the game plays out from there. And it's like, it's just really cool and high concept, and it hooked me right away. And the prologue is like really tragic and like almost brought tears to my eyes. I'm like, this is like really bittersweet and gorgeous. And the movie, everything's a movie in my mind. It's got 8 straight hours of music.
Oh, wow.
Like the soundtrack is 8 hours long, and every song is just flawless. Like it's a bop. I know I'm rambling, so I'll wrap it up. I'm a big fan of like really grindy games, and I'll like put on a podcast while I play it. Like I multitask. This was the first game I played in a while where I couldn't do more than one thing at a time. Like I had to just play the game because I was like overwhelmed by, first of all, the visuals, because they're incredible.
Mhm.
It's like everything is so detailed. The experience I had most while playing the game was literally just like out loud saying like WTF, like how is this as good as it is? Because it was made by a team of 33 people
Dang.
for like no budget. The guy who did the music for it, they found him on SoundCloud. This was his first big project.
Nice.
Like it was like this ragtag team that just came together and made one of the best games of all time out of nowhere. So it's an inspiration as someone who's like in the indie filmmaking world, like independent creativity. Like you can make something that's like top tier artistic value, but like do it on a small scale.
Mm-hmm.
So that's been what's inspired me about this project. I'm saying everything's a movie or a project to me.
Yeah.
That's what's inspired me, just for like creative reasons, but also it was just a crazy story, super high concept, like kind of blew my mind, was super challenging. I played it on the hardest difficulty because that's how I like to play a lot of games. Yeah, good mechanics. I was engrossed. I skipped two podcast episodes to play it. But yeah, that's my Expedition 33 ramble.
Well,
what inspired you, Mateo?
I did skip 2 podcast episodes, but not because I'm particularly engrossed in any video game, even though my now almost a year-long stint on Arma 3 is still ongoing. You'll probably hear me cough throughout the episode, and that's just because I'm working so much that it's made me sick, and then I just have to still work through it. It would be fun to take a year of freaking like a month off of work just because I'm so sick all the time. But I have managed to make myself write about 3 pages a day.
That's really good.
And like sometimes I don't quite get there. Sometimes I'm like, hey, I'm approaching 1 o'clock. I'm not going to make myself write 3 pages a day.
Mm-hmm.
But often I'll get that 3 pages a day off. And it's like, you know, we had an episode where I talked about just like get 1 line down, get 3 sentences down.
And this is way more than that.
And this is way more than that. But like I'll be like, just get 1 line down, and I'll get, you know, a line, and then like that line becomes a page, and then that page becomes 2 pages, and sometimes that becomes 3 pages, and sometimes we can get to like 10 pages. Told you it was gonna happen. We can get to 10 pages all of a sudden. And it's really heartening to see that despite, you know, how bad I'm feeling, et cetera, that like my writing, my art isn't stagnating because of it. And it really doesn't take that much more work.
Yeah, that's great. So you're where I was early this year, where I was just like cranking out videos, like always working on something. And I got to like grandstand and be the guy that was like, I'm inspired by my own projects and what I'm working on, which is a great place to be. To contrast that, I have not worked on anything.
That's like okay. You're in the intake stage.
I know. It's just, I feel like I have to be making something, but I also clearly, I don't feel that way if I'm not doing it. Yeah. I don't know. But that 3 pages a day is really good.
What inspired me to do that was I was talking to a friend online. Hi, Dalton, if you're watching. And he mentioned Stephen King's process is he sits at his desk and makes himself write at least 3 pages. And obviously that is a page of book, which book page is much longer and takes much more.
Sure.
But like in a script, it's so much easier. So like, surely 3 pages should just be a piece of cake. And sometimes it is, and sometimes it isn't. But
yeah, I mean, it's something like
It inspired me to like, because I want to be as prolific as Stephen King, who has books he forgot he wrote.
Wow. Well, maybe that's not a good thing.
I mean, he was on cocaine when that happened, but
Did he ever have dementia?
I don't know if that's happened. He's still writing books right now. He has
Oh.
books. He has books
Oh.
like, you know, there's like the Stephen King section, and then there's
Yeah,
also
yeah.
books by Stephen King, but he's not publishing under Stephen King.
Mm.
He has like several aliases to publish books. The Running Man, Stephen King.
Here's a question. Is there a point where you've created so much art that your art starts to kind of lose meaning? Like, does it lose meaning just by virtue of the quantity?
You can ask like Steven Spielberg about
No, I can't
that.
ask him. I'm asking you.
Hey, Steven. You know, I think there is a time, and I think people are starting to get there with Wes Anderson.
Mm-hmm.
And I love Wes Anderson to death, but he has that sort of Wes Anderson formula, and he plays around within it. I can see him do that artistically, but if you're just somebody who's kind of like into A24 films as like a hobby,
Mm-hmm.
and you don't like watch bad movies sometimes,
Which I sometimes do.
but
Shout out
like,
The Blob from
so they're like, Wes
1960.
Anderson is just a brand. He's just like Marvel. And like, yes, he's kind of a brand, and you could say he's kind of stagnating in that, where he puts out a bunch of the same movie now. He's doing other stuff, right? I'm defending him in this case. But like, some people have that criticism of him because he's made so many movies at this point that, you know, it doesn't feel like, oh, he gets to make another movie now. He's just sort of putting something else out that people are going to see because he's Wes Anderson.
Yeah.
And I disagree that it's happening to him, but there are definitely directors where it's like, do you have anything new to say? Are you doing anything new artistically?
Mm-hmm.
Is this just a paycheck to you? Why did you, Noah Baumbach, write the Madagascar 3 sequel?
That's really funny.
It was to pay for his divorce. I know why. But
I don't know, like a lot of times, like, not to get too like philosophical, because this isn't really the place for it, but like a lot of meaning feels like it's derived from impermanence in a weird way. And so like, if I imagine myself making like 200 films, which is insane, like 200, imagine having made 200 feature-length films, like at what point is it just like, you've done it?
yeah.
Like, you can't do this forever.
I mean, that's what Tarantino, he's like set himself at. He's like, I'm only making like, it's like 9 movies.
Yeah.
Or like 10 movies.
Mm-hmm. Close to it.
And then he's like, well, Kill Bill doesn't count because it's just parts, so I can just make infinite Kill Bills. And I'm like, okay, Quentin.
But he hasn't done that, so obviously that was...
He's got like one more left in the tube, and it was about to be a Star Trek sequel that he was going to do, which I don't want to see Tarantino's Star Trek. I understand.
Don't necessarily either.
Like, don't show me that.
But,
I understand.
Like, all that to say, like, from Stephen King's perspective, that's impressive.
Yeah.
But at what point does it just kind of like I'm not going to read all those. I'm going to read like The Shining and a few others, like the
you know, again,
stuff.
like, I don't think you need to see Asteroid City if you're just like somebody who's like, I need to get into... I mean, in my cinematic primer, I was like, you don't even need to see Asteroid City. Like,
damn, that's like one of the few Wes Anderson films I've seen,
and it's
only
good.
because you
like, we
drugged
saw
me
it
there.
together. Yeah, like I suggest watching it, but like, if you're like, I have to watch all of these movies, and there's only so many Wes Anderson films I can watch, Asteroid City's not like up there for me.
Mm-hmm.
It's kind of down into the, like, as you start to exhaust his catalog, there are better Wes Anderson films.
Yeah, not to get us on a bit of a tangent, but
yeah.
I guess to bring it full circle, you're writing a bunch. You're using like Stephen King's, like, almost said Spielberg. Steven Spielberg. No, but
I want to
doing
get
the
there one
3-page
day.
a day thing.
Yeah,
which
3 page a day.
Which is awesome.
Hopefully it'll be good. But yeah, to wrap that up, are you ready for the news?
Always. I love the news.
I'm gonna do this live.
Only when you do it, though.
Only when I do it. I'm gonna be looking off this. Actually, no, I'm gonna move the camera. I can do this now. How do I look? I can't tell.
You look great, but your head's chopped off.
Let me look at the speaker split screen so I can see it. Okay, cool. The S&P has downgraded Warner Brothers Discovery to junk stock status, a clear sign that S&P decision makers recently tuned into the latest offerings to be had from the CW network. Carey Mulligan is in talk to join Greta Gerwig's Narnia adaptation, which means now is a great time to We're gonna have to cut.
We're leaving it in.
Okay, no, I'm gonna restart this whole thing now. Dry mouth struck me. All right. The S&P has downgraded Warner Brothers Discovery to junk stock status, a clear sign that S&P decision makers recently tuned into the latest offerings to be had from the CW network. Carey Mulligan is in talks to join Greta Gerwig's Narnia adaptation, which means that now is a great time to ready yourself for comments to the tune of, "She didn't understand how to direct the book, but just look at the cast." And lastly, Darren Aronofsky's new AI-focused studio is partnering with Google's DeepMind in what is no doubt an attempt to create something worse than 2014's Noah. This has been the news. So, your thoughts?
This Narnia adaptation has kind of piqued my interest. I like the first Narnia movie. I won't say much about the other ones. Like,
Prince Caspian was decent. The Dawn Treader wasn't.
Yeah. The first one just has like a pretty badass like battle scene at the end. It's got that music.
Yeah.
It's pretty
got
good.
the music.
But yeah, Voyage of the Dawn Treader might have been my favorite book.
I think the Horse and His Boy was my favorite book.
Yeah, those were good.
I'm here and I think from what I'm seeing, Gerwig is directing The Silver Chair. I don't know if she's doing just A Lion, the Witch, and the Wardrobe. I haven't quite gotten confirmation on that either way. From what I heard, Carey Mulligan is playing Cedric Diggory's mother. So that could be several things.
Yeah, I don't actually know anything about the plot of The Silver Chair. I didn't read that far.
But watching Little Women, which is a text that's like kind of a very simple text in many ways. It's a great piece of American literature. But I did see sections where Greta Gerwig like understood the assignment, like portray strong women in literature, right? You know, have a very willful Jo March. And then there were sections where I was like she's doing like a little bit of a like time to sit on my soapbox about feminism moment, which, you know, she's a noted feminist director, like that's not a surprise. But I did feel that it took away a bit from the story as it sat. And part of this is kind of exacerbated by the fact that when the story was written, the publisher had basically made Louisa May Alcott change sections. It's by Louisa May Alcott, right?
That actually sounds right.
Alcott.
Yeah, you had it.
Oh, dang. I'm on the money today.
May Alcott.
The publisher made Louisa May Alcott change the ending where Jo March ends up with the professor. She finds a man, right? And there was some sort of like some question as to whether or not that was something that should happen in the book. Like, would Louisa May Alcott today have written it that way? You know, like, would the ending end the way it would, you know, et cetera, right? This was a serialized story that was in papers before being compiled into a book back in the day. So, like, I don't necessarily think that the ending that Greta Gerwig wrote in, where she kind of had her cake and ate it too, where she portrayed one ending and then the other, and you can't tell which is it's kind of an Inception where you can't tell which is the real one in Little Women. At the same time, I do worry about what she's going to do with Narnia, which has a lot of strong female characters that the feminist media critique tends to misunderstand. Because they happen to be complicated characters that have like issues. And it's like, well, like, is she going to flatten them out for the purpose of like a larger philosophical narrative that she possesses when she does The Lion, Witch, and the Wardrobe? And is she really going to understand C.S. Lewis the way that he should be? I'm very interested.
Yeah. No, I could see that worry. I wouldn't have really thought about that.
I worry she's, especially with Barbie, she's gotten too inflated,
Hmm.
and this is going to be like the movie that kind of takes her down a peg.
Hmm.
And
Go
I
see
don't
our
I really like Greta Gerwig, so I don't want that to happen.
go see our episode about messaging in films,
Yeah,
which
that
I
was
don't
a
know
good
if
one.
that episode does it hold up.
I don't know, I haven't seen it. The
Well, we have
discussion
to
was
say
good.
yes, but
Yeah, we have to say yes because it's still up on the channel. So
I wonder if that was one where I was just like very antagonistic the whole time, which something I tend to do. I gotta pick a side regardless of whether I believe it or not, just to like
yeah,
kind of
the love of the game.
yeah, gotta find the flaws.
Darren Aronofsky's AI studio interests me
Yeah,
because
what's the idea behind that exactly? Because I haven't heard of that.
it's one of the like nobody really knows what an AI focused studio
Yeah, we talked about that in last
is. Yeah,
episode.
it's sort of like AI. It's sort of like we're gonna use the blockchain in film now, and it's actually you could probably do something with DRM there that would be fine, I guess, if you wanted to defeat piracy. But I'm like, I don't. How are you using AI in film? I assume to make tools that allow you to do VFX better. That's like
Hmm.
that is my assumption.
I mean,
And
now that you mention it, the DRM thing seems a little more likely. You know,
yeah,
that's actually kind of smart.
the thing there's a video by dying out here. There's a video by the guys. They used to do Content Cop on YouTube.
Oh, yeah, I know who you mean. Is his name Ian?
No, wait. They collabed with him.
Okay, gotcha.
They did like
I think he's kind of
Ian's racist.
yeah. I think he kind of went off the deep end from what
hold
I've
on
seen.
one second. They have a name.
Man, we're simultaneously on the names today and off the names today. We're nailing them and then we're forgetting them.
It's Nerd City,
Mm.
which is a name I haven't heard in a hot second. Okay, there we go. There's a guy on YouTube, Nerd City. He was famous for the like just kind of taking the piss out of influencers, where he would like first of all like detect Photoshop on all these like various YouTube influencers and like kind of call them out. General drama, but he did a video that actually piqued my interest, and it was where he basically tore apart a lot of blockchain was huge at the time. The NFTs were big.
Mm.
And he tore apart NFTs, but he was also like, listen, we went through the same thing with the internet, where it was like people were capitalizing on the internet and internet art,
Mm-hmm.
and then the bubble burst, and we kind of got left with like a few key companies that actually were practical uses of the internet. Amazon, right? You can order stuff online. Google, you can look stuff up, and sometimes it's true, right? And he's like, but like back during the online boom, you had all these internets. We had Ask Jeeves, we had all these like this was going to be the next big thing in the internet in the like late 90s. And that bubble bursts, and suddenly you actually have like the chips fall where they do, and then you have your answer. And he's like, right now for art, you're going to have, a lot of people using the blockchain and art, like with NFTs, which are people that don't care about art but are trying to capitalize on art collection before collecting art. So they have like the Bored Ape JPEGs that they're like, this is an NFT that's worth $1 million. I put my freaking college fund in here, and it's like that's gonna be worth nothing in 2 years.
Yeah.
But like he was like that, like yes, that's annoying, but at the same time, NFTs do have like there's a realm of possibilities for NFTs and art. You just like the bubble's up and it's deflating, and eventually somebody will come up with a good use for the blockchain and art. But right now we're still in this weird mad like
trying to figure out what it's good
speculation
for.
Scramble. And so I think he was pitching some sort of like a platform that would allow artists to like basically profit from their online art in a way that wasn't NFTs, but like still use the general NFT like format of like, minting, you mint a piece of art that's,
Yeah,
non-fungible token.
it would be a way to like create. It's still
Mm.
artificial scarcity, but
Yeah.
create scarcity within the digital like creative landscape. Because it is a weird like we're trying to like value is subjective,
Hmm.
obviously. Like when you put a price on a thing, it's not in any way like tied to the intrinsic value of that thing. It's just kind of whatever people are able to pay. But generally it's tied to scarcity.
Yeah.
So like something's worth more if there's like less of it generally. Um, but with digital things, it's weird to charge for them
Yeah. It's
because
like,
if you pirate something, you're not actually taking something that
no.
actually existed. Like if I steal a DVD off a store shelf, that's a problem because that business owner like bought that stock and now
Yeah.
he doesn't have that thing. But if you pirate a movie, it's more of like it's an opportunity cost, which is
Yeah.
not the same evil if you want to call it
You're
that.
robbing revenue
Potential revenue
potential revenue, but that
that
like
you might not have even been willing to buy
yeah,
anyway.
if I pirate if we're selling Hypnagogia, right?
Yeah,
We're gonna put it out on physical release. It's gonna be very fun.
yeah, it's gonna
Um,
be.
but like we're selling Hypnagogia in physical form because of this. Because it's like if I was to sell basically MP4 files, right?
Yeah, that would feel weird.
I'd be like,
I'm
yeah,
right there with you.
like you can get this on YouTube, and if you
Right.
watch this on YouTube, you're not like taking food out of our mouths for the art we made.
Yeah, I don't know how I feel, and this is just this kind of broad discussion. I haven't really thought about this in a while, but paying for access is weird.
Yeah.
Like I almost like for example, there was a company that's been reaching out to me a bunch. Have been ignoring all of their emails, but they really really want one of our short films on their dedicated short film streaming platform, which is cool. And I'm like, at first I was like, oh, that's like kind of flattering. But the film, like they were asking about Bleeding Heart Routine, and they're like, you can make revenue off of the streams. I'm like, yeah, but I would almost rather people just watch it on YouTube, Like,
Yeah.
I don't know. Maybe
I
it would be
mean,
a good idea to just post it there as long as I'm
yeah.
still able to keep it on YouTube. But if it's an
Yeah.
either or, then I
Like I'm
would say
like if you
no.
want to discover my short film through this, sort of Criterion collection style streaming for short films that like by all means, but I'm going to put it elsewhere. I'd put it on Tubi if I could,
Hmm.
right? Um and like YouTube, if we get big enough on YouTube, eventually YouTube will start to pay us because people will watch our movies on YouTube and
For
that will
sure. I
but
also
that's
don't know if
ad
I'm
funded.
I don't know if I know, I was going to say that. Like, I don't know if I'm being a hypocrite because I don't like the ad supported model either. So it just sounds like I don't like
Yeah.
any monetization model, but that's
The
stupid
my favorite
too.
monetization model is
This is why I'm going to be broke forever. Like,
yeah. Physical is best for me
I
because
like,
I like the idea of supporting artists by I'm gonna go onto a short film streaming platform that I pay
Mhm.
money for. I like the idea of that. At the same time, I feel weird selling somebody a file, right?
Mhm.
Unless again, if I was like to make like an application, that's a product, right? But if it's just like a video file, I'd prefer to sell them that.
God,
Why
I have
not?
so many thoughts here. You
Yeah,
want to just make this the
yeah. Forget
the
our original
monetization
topic.
episode?
Yeah, we'll do it.
Um,
We'll do a monetization episode. Coming back to like an AI studio, blockchain. Eventually there's going to be a good AI that works for what it needs to work for. Because I know guys at the DoD who are telling me that they were working with other like GPT and all these AI features back when that was like nobody had access to. And they were like, you're going to get replaced. And this was like, 2018. I was in college. I was like, that's not going to happen. And now I'm getting replaced on projects. And I was like, they're not doing a good job at replacing me.
yeah, for sure.
But like, there's AI VFX, right? Which, there are like
AI podcast hosts.
AI podcast hosts. There is a use case for AI and working that into film, especially with how just absolutely overworked a lot of VFX artists are. There's a way to work that into film that does not exploit said VFX artists, right?
Yeah.
That provides them tools, just like AI like noise cancellation works great
Yeah.
when it works versus having to do that like all by yourself.
Yeah, for sure. Like ideally, we talked a bit about AI in a couple episodes ago, I think.
Yeah.
But like, there's definitely a use case there. It eliminates a lot of the tedium. I think that like there's ways to like batch record or like batch tasks with AI that
Hmm.
just it's not creative work and it just needs to be done.
Yeah.
For example, there's AI tools that will for podcast episodes like this, they'll automatically switch the camera angle to
Yeah.
whoever's talking. It's like,
It's
is that a creative job? Like, no, not necessarily. So,
I
like,
AI was doing that in Zoom,
for sure, yeah.
and it was fine.
And that's
It
really
was
helpful, and it's a good use of it. I guess to like, yeah, some scatterbrained thoughts here. Hear me out.
yeah.
Uh, value is weird. I see your point about like, oh, blockchain could be a good use to create some real scarcity behind digital products, but for me, on a like fundamentally, I don't think it's much different than what we already have. Like
No.
you're still manufacturing scarcity.
Hmm.
I do feel, and I haven't quite figured out like what the best model for selling digital things are. I mean, I guess it doesn't matter. I'm probably
It's to put them
overthinking
on a
it.
CD. That's what it is. But
That's my opinion, because you're selling the physical item, which makes sense to me. But maybe I'm just like old fashioned in that way. It probably doesn't matter. Like something's worth whatever someone's willing to pay. So like whatever, charge your subscription, charge for access to your film. That's fine. Like maybe a donation model, fan supported model would be best.
like SoundCloud does that,
Well,
and no,
think
not
of like,
SoundCloud. Bandcamp does that a lot.
mm,
Like it's like minimum. Hey, I want like $20 for my album, or $15, or however much I'm gonna charge for my album. But
for
you can
sure.
like tip over that as much as you want.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's great too. But yeah, I don't know. It's weird. And for us, like, I want to make our film freely available because I just
Yeah.
want people to see it.
Yeah.
But I want to sell like a fun product that has like behind the scenes, like it'll probably have a full length documentary
Hopefully.
attached to it. Um, by the way, where is my full length documentary, Mateo? I'm just kidding.
I still need access to those files.
Oh, I
So
need to have you over soon.
yeah.
But
Yeah. Just drop me like the little drive full of them, and I'll
But to sell you
plug
on
them
this
in.
product that doesn't exist yet, obviously you're getting access to the film, but you're getting a piece of memorabilia that you can like put on your shelf
Hmm.
with cool artwork, maybe a pamphlet. I don't know.
I hope. I hope.
Um,
I wanted to go like full design with this.
yeah, full documentary attached with behind the scenes like footage and the full soundtrack will probably release alongside it.
Commentary track.
Yeah, that too. Like you're getting something that's like if you just cared about access to the film, then fine. Like you can go
Yeah.
just
There's
watch it.
something on YouTube.
Obviously, like this isn't for you, but if you want like this whole experience, like I'm gonna buy this thing and I'm gonna like put it in the DVD drive and like experience this project and like really like enjoy it. And even if I'm like kind of lukewarm about it, like I'm like it's a fine film, I still have this cool story that I
Yeah.
can tell people. Like oh, I have this thing from these independent filmmakers. It's like this cool little thing. Maybe you show it off at a
And again,
gathering.
like I don't
That's
think.
worth more to me, is what I'm saying.
Yeah, I don't think an NFT of your art that you sell normally.
Yeah.
It's. I think the really good thing to do with digital art is to make it into prints and sell it to people, because then they can put it on their wall.
Yeah, yeah. And there's
And that
actual
I.
overhead attached to the
Yeah.
materials to like distribute that. So
Yeah.
like it makes sense. But a digital thing is just weird. Like
Yeah. It's like I.
but
I
people still
have.
need to get paid, which is the
I
part I'm
have
conflicted
from
about.
you. I have from when you had your wedding business. I have from the venue photographers when I got married. I have like a thumb drive full of like my wedding photos,
Hmm.
and I backed them up and stuff, because I have like all the rights to them that I want. But like I had bought those, and I did get those on a little thumb drive, and I was like, well, this isn't it's not a DVD. I'm not playing a slideshow, but like it's tangible, like it's in my hand.
Yeah. Ish. I mean
Ish,
that's
sort
close.
of. It's
That's there's a
still.
spectrum. Yeah, that's on the
Yeah.
spectrum.
I could
Just
still
like me.
technically erase that thumb drive and use it to store,
For sure. Yeah. It's a
which
very
doesn't feel
expensive thumb
good.
drive.
Yeah, it's a very expensive thumb drive.
But anyways.
But like, I don't think NFTs are like the way for digital art, but like eventually NFTs and the blockchain, something practical will come out of it, and that's what people are going to continue to spend money on,
Mhm.
versus this sort of venture capital with blockchain and now AI, where people are just kind of like, eventually this has got to make money for me, so I'm going to keep pushing it.
Mhm.
Um it was app development before that, before people realized that they don't like spending lots of money on apps.
Hmm.
So now it's all gotcha games. And like AI, yeah, like there are going to be practical uses for film. And eventually a couple of these AI for film studios will like have a product that actually makes everything easier and works.
Mhm.
And that's going to be what, you know, eventually you and I in our studio will have some sort of like AI helper for
sure. That's
be it like
like
doing grunt work on a color grade, you know, which,
ideally. Yeah, that'd be cool.
yeah, you know, something like that where it's like, it's not the artistic part. It's not the artistic part of figuring out. It's an implementation. We're not
Mhm.
vibe coding a color grade here.
I mean, you are,
Yeah.
but
But like
but
something
it's whatever.
that'll, you know, instead of having to copy and paste to everything, it'll just do that already. And then you can do your thing.
Hmm.
You know, there'll be tools that let you do that. And I think those are good.
Yeah.
I think we're still at the part where people are announcing AI film studios that'll eventually put out something worthwhile in maybe 30 years,
Jeez.
you know?
So
Because again,
not very
like
bullish.
Amazon was freaking only became really profitable, I believe, in 2017, 2018.
Hmm.
Like it was like, hey, we're actually like not in the red this year
Hmm.
at that point, which is insane, right? Like you operated for 30 years at a loss. And now, of course, you know, from that, look how profitable they are now from 2017.
Yeah.
Like,
Wish I could spend 30 years not
yeah, right.
needing to think about being profitable, but
That's the beauty of venture capital, baby. You can be not profitable for
was the
your.
beauty.
It's still happening. Let me tell you
In
that.
2025,
In
sir?
2025, venture capital is still blowing money. Whatever, Y Combinator is still going.
Hmm.
They're just pumping money into things that will eventually not come to anything. It's
Hmm.
great.
Can I say one last thing about scarcity
Yes.
before we have to move on?
Yeah, we do
But
have
I'm
to move
also
on.
not as concerned with like flow
It's
for
fine.
this episode because the fact that we're doing it is and not playing video games
Yeah.
is the real win here. But there's a weird thing too. Like if you're the kind of person, no shade, okay, but if you're the kind of person that like pirates something, chances are you weren't gonna pay to watch it anyway. Like you pirate it to watch something that you wouldn't have thought was worth paying for, right? So it's like it increases your access, but it kind of like don't be worried about people stealing your stuff
Yeah.
for like access to it. Maybe distributing it's bad
Mm-hmm.
and making money off it in
Yeah.
different ways, but like
I mean, half the people seeding aren't even making money off that.
no, distributing it's probably not great, but
Mm-hmm.
just like consuming it, like if they didn't go to the theaters to watch your thing, like you're not really losing money from the opportunity cost
Yeah.
perspective. Like it's not really an opportunity cost. You probably weren't going to buy it anyway. Um, yeah, like a lot of people
It's.
that pirate like Switch games, which I don't
Mm-hmm.
recommend, because it could brick your console, and also Nintendo will come after you.
Yeah, with an
But
axe.
people were pirating those games because they were leaking like a week or two early
Mm-hmm.
because they were fans of the games and they probably like also bought the game.
Yeah.
You know, like there's very few people that are like, oh, I don't need to buy this anymore because I pirated it.
These people will buy like 18 remasters of the same exact
I know.
property.
Like, I've pirated a few games, but usually like I also bought them like 5 times.
Mm-hmm.
I'm pirating it so I can play it on my phone, but I have like
Yeah.
8 copies of
Yeah.
it, like especially over the years. So it's I don't know, like it's counterintuitive, but
We're now in the era of streaming, right? Which is also not technically profitable.
yeah, we're in the early era of physical media again, baby.
Yeah, well, that's
I'm
what's
gonna tell myself.
happening.
I'm gonna tell myself that.
What's happening is people like Hundreds of Beavers, which was a massive hit, is like, hey, we're releasing on Blu-ray.
Hmm.
You should probably buy this because you get to places where Infinity Train, which was this Cartoon Network show, kind of a mini series. Well, Cartoon Network's gone now.
Oh, really?
Yeah, Warner Brothers axed it, so you can
Wow.
find it on like HBO Max. Except now, because every time you tune in to whatever Infinity Train, you tune in to Breaking Bad, what on a streaming platform, they do have to pay residuals to these people. On streaming, it's much less than like a TV appearance, but like every time something happens, they pay residuals. That's why like, for example, like the Big Bang Theory, like the artist that recorded that song, believe it's Mark Mothersbaugh. I might be wrong there. But whoever recorded the Big Bang Theory theme song, he's just like, that song is making me millions of dollars because every time they air an episode of that on like TBS or whatever, I get money kicked my way.
That's crazy.
And like that happens on streaming, but on streaming, HBO can go, we're removing Infinity Train from streaming as a tax write-off. They put out like movies that just don't exist. They're just nowhere because they like the whole movie's been filmed. They axe it for a tax write-off, and it never got a physical release or even a theatrical release.
I mean, obviously,
what's happening is like companies can just do that, right? And like the creator of Infinity Train doesn't even have like a physical copy of Infinity Train because it never got a physical copy.
Yeah, you should probably.
And it's been erased from streaming.
Yeah.
People are saying because they just like they didn't want to pay residuals, whatever reason, it's just gone. And nobody, like as an artist, you don't have distribution rights unless you're putting it out.
That
like
makes
you
more
and
sense. Yeah, like if something's not getting streamed as much, then like the residuals are more to pay than like what you're earning from those streams.
Mm-hmm.
That makes sense. But that is different from making and
Yeah.
producing a whole movie and then axing it just for a tax
the thing is
write-off.
they didn't produce the whole movie. They got it in a merger.
Gotcha. That kind of sounds like tax fraud.
It sounds like on top of that, there's the conspiracy that a lot of these streamers are like putting views to like reporting views to these films that they're overinflating their numbers.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they can say they'll be like, oh yeah, well every household has about 3 people, so instead of 1 million people watching this, what if they watch it with their friends? You know, we'll pump that up to 5. So 5 million people watch this.
Jeez.
You know, that's
super like
during the WGA strike, because you know writers wanted, that was one of their things, is they wanted more residuals for streaming because initially they went easy on streaming because they're like, well, this is kind of unknown waters. We don't know how profitable it really is. So is a streaming view really as good as just a television or theater view? And now they're like, well, you're apparently making so much money with streaming, so like, let me get like a proper residual for streaming because like I'm making no money on something that gets 5 million views. But some people are contemplating the fact that like we don't actually have like any solid analytics to how they're getting this data. Like Netflix is really protective of its data because like that's where all its advertising, that's where it gets all its like advertising revenue and stuff, is by selling this like analytic data. When are people watching? What are people watching? Like, how long are they watching through this? With a lot of TV, like that's very like monetizable data. So they're very protective of it. But people are also going, oh, are you pumping up your numbers? Because you have basically a black box that you're pulling these claims out of. Like, have you been adding?
It should just be by device.
Yeah, it should be by device, right?
Because that's essentially how it works with TV. I don't know why it should be different.
But they're
like, oh, 5 views because maybe 5 people were in the living room. It's like,
well,
you don't know that.
You look at like how many users do they have on the account?
And they were all watching the same show at the same
time.
Were
they all sitting down to watch the same show? Like
that makes no sense.
Right, but like
that's crazy.
The thing is that they really don't know how they're getting the math. So they think that there's been like some sort of long con because there's no way that many people watched Zack Snyder's Rebel Moon. It's not a good movie.
I watched it 3 times a day for the last year. So
there's no way he gets that many views because it was a horrible film. So they're starting to go like, hey, hold on a second. And so, like streaming is kind of profitable. Arguably, it's still not profitable the way it should be. To the point that like
for the artists or in general?
In general. For the company at least.
I wonder why television would have been more profitable.
But like television like had like it had set incentives. Movies obviously have set incentives in the contract. Streaming was the sort of no man's land. And like as we've seen with all the price hikes, like where are we? Where do you even start? And speaking of starting.
Nice. Back where we
how
all
do you
started.
Start a film?
Yeah.
This has been the profitability Now,
which is fine. Yeah,
now how we start a film.
with a bang.
With a
Literally.
bang. We literally started with a bang. We had gunshots in the first 2 minutes.
Yeah.
Um,
I don't know. For me, like, I was talking to my wife about this. Obviously, Emily, but my audience, for the audience, I was talking to my wife about this. I have trouble paying attention when I'm not given a reason to pay attention. Like, I find that there's a lot of TV shows that they're just like, hey, pay attention to this because it's important, I promise. And they haven't like established stakes or like conveyed the premise or given me like any conflict that I like want answers to, or questions that I want answers to. I like everything goes through one ear and out the other. And sometimes eventually I'll get that, but I find that if you want people to pay attention, you have to give them a reason to pay attention. The best time to do that's at the beginning, obviously.
Yeah.
I won't talk about this too much again, but like Expedition 33, amazing prologue. The prologue is so like, boom, you're there. Stakes are established, characters are established. You're like, oh my god, like I'm gonna pay attention to every line of dialogue in this this movie, in this game. But I've watched like certain animes with my wife, with Emily, and I was like, hey Emily, what the hell is going on in this show? I'm not following at all. And she's like, well, how are you not following? They're doing X, Y, and Z. I'm like, I know, but I'm just like, I'm not even reading the text. I'm not even reading the subtitles.
It's not retaining your attention.
Because they haven't given me a reason. It's just like, oh, shenanigans are happening and it's crazy. Obviously, some shows are better than others, in my opinion, but you have to give me a reason to watch. So for me, like, you gotta establish those stakes early on, and you have to have an intriguing premise, and you need to get it across quickly. And then you can kind of meander and take your time, as long as there's like the motivation to eventually figure something out. A lot of people are really into Severance right now.
Yes.
And it establishes the premise very early on. Like, we know why you're sitting down, like the pitch of the movie, the log line. You read the log line. We're going to give that to you right away. So you get.
Yeah. Helly wakes up. Like, it's right there.
Perfect. And then we can meander because we already have you and it's fine.
Personally, the perfect opening to any film for me has got to be the opening to The Matrix. And here's like why I'm gonna outline this. Why you can clip this and put this at the beginning, so we have a good start that we can flash back to. But basically, so when you make a film, the opening has to, and again, you have like the first 10 pages, and the Wachowski sisters for The Matrix specifically, like went like above and beyond with this, because they were given like no budget, right? Just like small kind of low to mid budget film. And they were like, this wasn't even, The Matrix was the lesser on the two films they were greenlit for. Bound, which is sort of a noir they did, got like the actual like top billing. And that was like the one that had more funding. So they took all the money for The Matrix and they put it just into the first scene. And what that scene does is it has Trinity beating up a bunch of these like men in suits who are like possessing cops, and then she like takes a phone call and like teleports out, and it like there's all this gun fu, and the Wachowskis put this in front of the board and said, hey, fund us like fully and you'll get this you'll get an entire movie that's just as good as this, and answers the three things, which are engaging characters. You need, people need to like grab onto this character. The character doesn't have to be a good person. It doesn't have to be relatable, but it has to be interesting. Right. And then you need to have like the question, like what happens, the plot, the engaging plot. And then it also needs to be engaging action. Right. So, the engaging action is like some excellent gun fu. For us, the engaging action was, gunshots in the forest. You want to know more. For Christopher Nolan, when he did Batman Begins, he starts off not with the Waynes getting shot. He starts off with actually Bruce Wayne in prison. and like onwards and so on and so forth. A lot of movies do that. I'm kind of proofreading like the fourth draft of a script for a guy right now, and his starts with an engaging character who's kind of like a slob, but like he's interesting, he's funny, he's a bit of a dirtbag, and it starts with him puking into a toilet, and that like first page tells you all you need to know about this guy. He pukes into a toilet, he gets up, he takes a swig of whiskey. And it's like, oh, he's like this kind of self-destructive slob, but he's like got lovable tendencies to him from, the phone call you see him take. And I'm not going to, spoil this. This is a guy's unreleased project, but like that, like I was like, oh yeah, I'm on board to see where this goes. Cause like, why is he doing this? How is he like acting like this?
Mm-hmm.
There's a question it sets up. There's a guy, a character that I'm like I don't even think he's a good person. I don't find him relatable, but it's a bit of a like, oh, where does this go? And then you have like on top of all of that, you have like that question of, where does this go? Like, what can I see like happen to this guy? And then a very engaging action, which is like a guy puking into a toilet that like immediately grabs you. Like,
Right.
Why is he puking? How is he puking?
Another example, speaking of the Wachowskis, the Speed Racer movie.
Oh yeah.
Dude,
amazing
I watched
intro.
that for the first time a couple weeks ago.
Really?
Yeah. I just missed it as a kid. I watched it, like, incredible movie.
Incredible film.
Insane. Like, the filmmaking is wild, which is a conversation for another time, but also opens with, like, everything you need to know. And also, like, you're here for racing and some interesting, like, lovable characters, and you get all of that right away.
Yeah.
You even get, like, some emotional punches right off the bat, which is great.
It's a great
the
film.
first, like, honestly, it's like one of the best film openings. I would put it up there with Up.
Oh yeah, the opening to Up is like I mean, it's heartbreaking. It's so emotional, but like it tells you the story of these characters, and then it's like gives you the question of how is he going to deal with Ellie's death, right? Because it's so heart wrenching, and then it's so engaging because it's got a montage. Zack Snyder of all people also does a fantastic
you
montage.
mentioned that. Yeah.
The opening to Watchmen, it's like it gives me this entire cast of characters. It gives me a world. It gives me a question: what happens next after the end of the superhero? And then it has just lots of action because it's a montage, so you're never alone. He also does it with Sucker Punch, which is a much worse film, but one of my personal favorites for some reason. Like that, keeping it engaging, keeping the events, keeping a question there. That's what really sells in the first 10 pages, the first 5 minutes, however you want to shake it up. Like that's how you start a film for me. And I've done it, Bleeding Heart routine, right?
Wakes up in a shower.
He wakes up in a shower, which is like lots of questions. Why is he like this? You know?
But it's delivering on the promise of being a dramatic, character-driven short film.
Yeah.
Is you open with the character in a weird scenario. Like that's
and then
part
people
of
want to know
part of
more.
the pitch of the film, and you get that.
Yeah. People want to know more. Ford v Ferrari, another racing film, right? And it's very hard to make racing like engaging because
Shut your mouth.
Listen, racing. I've seen a lot of car content in my time as a car guy. And a lot of racing films is just, I'm shifting really mad. And like, you can see cars going around curves, but the car chase is the better racing film. And racing films aren't usually car chases because racing isn't a car chase. Racing is like doing laps.
Sure.
And Ford v Ferrari makes a very good case for that racing films can still be engaging.
Well, yeah. I mean, like, look at the numbers that F1 gets.
Yeah, F1 gets, but it's at the same time, F1 is sports. And we'll see with the F1 movie. But a lot of films, even as these people are going around curves, it's basically a bunch of guys kind of like you go to a close up in the car and they're just shifting gears. And it's like,
I mean, maybe
after a certain amount of time, like
Fast and Furious,
you can't watch just a bunch of that, right? There's a reason that Fast and Furious pivoted away from street racing as the main event, hard into
action,
going to space,
that's
because
weird.
you can only make racing engaging for so long. There's ways to do it, which Ford v Ferrari does. And one of the things it does is it doesn't linger too long on the racing. It like it finds interesting ways to portray said racing.
Well, it contextualizes the racing,
Yeah.
which I think is the important part. We're mostly in agreement. Yeah.
Yeah.
With like the opening being good. I would say it's a bit reductive. Because
For example,
it almost be like saying like, oh well, like action movies, like, you know, you can only shoot and run so much before it gets boring. It's like, well, yeah, but like that's why you have plot and characters and all this other stuff.
Yeah.
We're not saying that that's the only thing you're there for.
There
Obviously,
are a lot of racing films,
it's
I will
added to.
say. Like, it's sort of like a running film, like a track film where like he's just like most of it is him just running in a straight line.
Yeah, or
And
John
like,
Wick, where most of it's just him shooting guys.
And John Wick 4, it started to kind of chug.
But is that because of the action or because of the motivations getting stale?
Both.
I'm saying it's not an action problem.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll
just
I'll
a little
hear you out
gripe,
on that.
just a little nitpick.
But like
I'm feeling sassy today.
A lot of cars, like, you know, especially if you're telling like a historical story like Rush does, like they're shifting around in cars, but like you're basically showing them going around turns, and unless somebody crashes, you can only have them pass each other for so many times before it all starts to blend together.
Well,
which is why you have to contextualize those things. You can't tell like just a straight I'm in a car shifting a car story.
Sure. But you've watched a lot of like real racing.
Yeah.
Where it's like, you're like, is he going to pass? Is he going to pass? Like, you know, if there's
Well,
stakes.
I watch endurance racing, which you're like, he's not going to pass for another 20 minutes.
But then when he does, you're like hyped.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
Ford v Ferrari it's a 24-hour race, the Le Mans, and it really takes the time to like not only shoot the cars in interesting ways, right?
Oh,
but
yeah.
also,
oh my God.
Like, and it shot cars in ways that I was like, oh, I like really haven't seen this since like Le Mans '66, which was Steve McQueen actual Le Mans shooting this. There's like a lot of interesting ways it shot the cars, and it made sure to keep things fresh. But a lot of car films don't keep things fresh because they're like, I just love seeing, you know, cars on track, and it's like,
I love seeing the shifter. Yeah.
Yeah. There's only so many times the guy can shift before you're like, this loses all the weight of
which
the
is
shift.
fair. Also, that's just not interesting anyway.
Yeah, it's not interesting anyway. I mean, it's interesting at first, and if there's like stakes to it, like a car chase, and like, you know, like this guy could actually die, you know, if he doesn't get away. But it's like, if you don't get away in the race, oh, you lose.
Yeah, for sure.
So now you have to put all this plot and stuff, and that's what Ford v Ferrari does great in its opening. Is it shows Carroll Shelby, it shows him stopping for his pit stop, catch on fire, keep going. And then immediately, like, you're like, okay, you know, now I get to sit through like a 15-minute race scene where then it shows him win, and then we get to the plot. No, immediately you cut to him in the doctor's office getting told he can't race anymore because he's a heart condition. And then he hops in his like cherry red Porsche Speedster, and he drives away really fast, almost as if he's still racing with a heart condition. But it's like, it immediately sets him up. It sets up something interesting. And then it sets up something even more interesting once the interesting part, like the racing, you know, so you start to get, like, you can only go around in circles so much. Now he catches on fire. That's like, oh,
right.
You know, you've grabbed the audience in the first 3 minutes, really. Then you sit him down in the doctor's office. You tell him he can't race, and then he drives off. And now the question is, how is he going to deal with it? You've set up a guy who's like ballsy because he caught on fire and kept racing. You set up a guy, now you give him a problem that he has to solve, and you hook the audience with fast cars and bright lights, like right away.
Yeah, yeah. And just to like really hammer this point home, like hooking the audience with the thing that they are here to watch.
Yes.
And so it's like, I want to watch cars go fast and it be this adrenaline pumping thing. Great. We're going to give that to you right now. Like you get it. And then we'll get to the story stuff. And now that you're satisfied enough, it's like an appetizer. Now that you're satisfied, you're more receptive to, okay, we can slow down, we can like start hanging out with these characters in a different way, which is something I think we did with Hypnagogia.
I
to make everything about myself, but
I mean, that's an easy thing because that's something that we've done, so we're not just preaching to the choir here,
right?
I will say there are ways to like subvert things, like you'll see. This is in a bunch of movies. I don't have a specific example that I can pull out of my hat right now, but you'll see a guy that's like, you know, some sort of action thing will happen, and then suddenly the director yells cut, and then that's when the actual movie starts. And that action thing often, like, you know, For example, if it's about the Fall Guy has that.
That's so freaking funny. I was just thinking that.
I love the Fall Guy. Like, you know, you see like all this cool stuff happen, then the yells cut, and it's like, oh, he's actually like the whole point is that he's this kind of loser who wants to live up.
Yeah.
And it sets up the entire question, right? How will this loser try to live up to the sort
but
of
the intro
movie
of
star?
that movie is like a microcosm of the whole movie.
Yeah, and
it's like
such a clever
I'm pretty
film.
sure there's like a mini love story, and it's like it's like a montage version of like kind of what the whole film ends up being.
Yeah,
in like somewhat of a foreshadowy way, but in a way that also like makes sense because he's an actor, right? Where he's playing the Fall Guy a bunch.
Yeah,
like you get what you get what you came for right away.
Right away.
I love
the
that.
opening to The Holiday, which is a Christmas themed rom-com that is really good. It's got Jack Black and Jude Law and Cameron Diaz in it. And like, you know, part of the bit is that the main like love interest in it, she cuts together movie trailers. That's her job. And in this, like, it starts off with a movie trailer for a bunch of stuff. So, you know, if you're watching on a DVD, it kind of blends into all the other movie trailers. But like, and then like, you know, you have like all this romance, this kind of like beautiful rom-com romance. And then immediately like it cuts and it's like just to her life. And then throughout the film, you get other trailers that are just like of her. And like whatever like rom-com situation is happening within the film. It's like a nice little leitmotif. But within that, like it gives you what you expect, like this kind of like sappy rom-com stuff. Puts you in a world where this woman doesn't believe in love and rom-coms anymore. And then it still starts happening to her. So you get exactly what you paid for. And it sets up the question, how will this person who doesn't believe in that like basically come around to it?
Mm-hmm.
And it sets up her character perfectly for, you know, with the juxtaposition. I think Tropic Thunder does the same thing with trailers again, because of the juxtaposition of they're doing a movie. There's so many good ways to start a movie. And then of course there's also bad ways to start a movie.
And there's the best way. In
Guns
black
in the
and
Woods.
white 4x3.
Black and white 4x3, Guns in the Woods.
Roses. Oh, you know what else is black and white 4x3 at times?
The French Dispatch. 33. Oh.
No, yeah, it literally cuts to black and white 4x3 for like entire.
You've sold me.
I'm like, God damn it! How is this the perfect game? I'm cutting that. I just had to throw that in there
to kind of wrap my point up, because I think I've used enough examples. Perfect way to open a film is give audiences what they came for by showcasing, and sometimes you can showcase one or two things. You don't have to showcase all three, but an engaging moment, an engaging character, and an engaging question. And your first 10 pages, I'm going to say your first 5 minutes, honestly, and just put them out there. And like that, you know, you can't go too shock factor, because then it feels like cheap clickbait.
Sure.
But it's important.
Not necessarily.
Sometimes
you might be more
like,
concerned about that than me, because you
sometimes
mentioned.
I'll watch a movie and I'm like, this just feels cheap. Like I'm
really?
so bought in, but it's
I'd have
like
to see it. I might agree with you.
Have you ever watched a Netflix show and they just like
no,
like the first 10 minutes?
I hate television.
I know you hate television. In the first 10 minutes, there's
Speaking of not hooking you and wasting your goddamn time.
Well, in the first 10 minutes of like some like Bridgerton, right? It's just boobs
On
and
TV?
like
Oh wow.
Yeah, it's Netflix. You can show boobs.
Free the nipple.
But it's like, you know, kind of gratuitous nudity that doesn't mean anything, but you can tell they're just trying to kind of like.
Yeah, that's different, because I don't know if that's why you're there, but maybe you are.
I mean, it's Bridgerton, so yes, kind of.
Oh,
but
so that's not clickbaity. That's exactly what that audience is there for.
Yeah, but
you're
it's
just
like,
not that audience.
It's not setting up any real question. It's not setting. It's barely setting up the character, because again, it's just a gratuitous nudity that, like, you know, doesn't really give you anything engaging about the character other than he must be relatable because he can get some, right? And then like the action has nothing. There doesn't even set up a question, right? It's just like there's breasts. This is a character intro, you know, and it's like, oh, you know, they're having, you know, passionate intercourse, and it's like, I get it. You could. There's many ways to establish this sort of character that's like not like that, but I know you're doing this because it's gonna hook the audience in the first few minutes.
Yeah, it's
It's cheap,
maybe we're
but
just talking
it's
about
following
fan
our
service.
advice. It's not even fan service.
It's almost fan service. Fan service is a form of like what we're talking about.
Sort of, yes.
It's like adjacent.
I'm just saying, like, I feel like it's a bit cheap.
Yeah. Fan service is like sometimes giving the audience the thing that they want but don't need.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
There are many instances of fan service where, again, I'm like, sometimes I love fan service. The Deadpool movies, the fan service in those is so fun.
I would almost just call that like comedic relief, like a break.
What, the Deadpool movies?
Yeah, like a certain scene.
No, like a lot of the fan service in the Deadpool movies is like, here's a character that doesn't really need to be there, but it's a reference, and Marvel fans love references.
Nerds. Just kidding.
Regardless,
but I'm
not. even those Netflix shows that have kind of wanton garbage, but it gets your attention.
Mm-hmm.
They're still following our advice, and people still watch them because it hooks them.
And
in
it
the
is
first 5
our
minutes.
advice. They are practically stealing
this
information that only our audience should have.
Those shows that have already come out, they personally came and asked me how to start the story.
Oh, me too.
I gave them magnamoniously. I gave them my advice, and of course, they're very profitable now, as we all know from streaming. Well, Zach, are you ready for our cinematic homework? Well,
yes.
Actually.
Oh, what?
Yeah.
I'm so ready.
We usually say this is this week's. This was like 2 weeks ago because we had to play video games and we had to get sick. So now that that's over, we watched Warfare together.
Yeah, we did. That was the new Alex Garland movie, and I thought it was really good. You thought it was very good.
Yeah. So, okay, Civil War, a solidly well done film that I have many issues with, and Alex Garland as a writer was on my list. I was like, come on, man. Thin ice. Well, he was through the ice. He's still on thin ice. But Warfare has really brought him back for me. I've got to be honest, I was very impressed. Because when I saw the trailer for Warfare, I said, nobody needs to hear Alex Garland ever talk about war again. And then I watched
Hater.
this. I like Alex Garland films, just everything around Civil War. I was like, come on, dude, you've really let me down. But I watched Warfare.
We watched Warfare.
This was co-directed with the guy that ran stunts or advised on Civil War, and it's telling the story of the co-director's an actual battle he was in. There's actually a character who plays the co-director in Ramadi in Iraq back during the global war on terror, and it's all cribbed from actual like eyewitness accounts of people who were there, as well as the director, like everybody within his team. And it's partially because one of the teammates gets blown up. He loses his limbs, and he remembers nothing of the mission, like complete blank slate. So he wrote a bunch of his teammates and asked them what happened, because he was just trying to piece the story together of how it happened. So part of the film is like a very factual account of how things happened for their teammate. So like this film just puts you in the battle like as it happened, and it basically no commentary on the war. It literally is like, I was there, I'm telling you exactly how it is. This is basically a combat simulator. You just get to sit in my boots.
Yeah. And you really do get to sit there as the audience, because the movie is, for the most part, like one unbroken scene. It's not like a one.
Yeah,
it's not a one.
It basically happens in real time, or as close to it.
It feels like it, yeah. Also has a fun hook.
Yeah, it has a very fun hook.
I didn't know anything about this movie going into it, so the hook almost set my expectations up to be something that was not the rest of the movie.
Yeah,
but it was still fun. But I only bring that up because aside from the opening scene, which is very much its own thing, the whole movie is basically like one scene, one conflict, like one location. Really cool.
extremely well done. Like, there are a lot of films that are like, this is a one location film. Sinners, to some extent, is a one location film. It has other locations, but the majority happens in a singular location. And I've seen a lot of films that aren't as good, but this really does a good job at, like, it just puts you in the moment. It gives you, like, it's an anti-war film. And a lot of people thought were like, oh, it's a propaganda film, but it's an anti-war film in as much as it puts you within the war and says, hey, this really sucks.
Mm-hmm.
We don't need to be doing this. This is like really bad, and it's kind of senseless.
Yeah. The anti-war category has kind of like worn off for me. Like it's like everything's an anti-war film, I guess.
Yeah. Well, everybody claims to be an anti-war film. A lot, like, I mean, Apocalypse Now is an anti-war film, and at the same time, like, the Ride of the Valkyrie scene is like basically recruitment material.
Yeah, that's the thing. Like you're making anything you make a spectacle out of, you're in a way promoting.
Yeah.
Like in a way. So
it's such a hard, it's such a hard time to
conflicted.
portray violence, and you're like, this violence is bad. It's like, yes, but it's also
why
really
I'm here.
cool.
Yeah.
So. The one thing I gotta be honest, nothing in warfare, nothing like about the violence in warfare was at all like
overdone.
It wasn't overdone, but also none of it was like, oh, that's really cool. Like the guns were cool, I'll admit, and the gear was cool, and the soldiers looked cool, but also like they were getting blown up, and there's like, I want to say like a 20-minute scene of a guy just screaming, missing his legs, and it's just like it's one of the few movies that about war that I've watched and gone, if I get shot, I hope it just kills me right away. I don't want to be like awake for that.
Yeah.
I don't like, like you'll see, Indiana Jones get shot in the shoulder and he just kind of goes, ah, and then he just punches the guy with the same arm he got shot with. Which, I know adrenaline's a hell of a drug, but like, okay. Warfare, none of that. I was like, oh, like this is a very bad thing to be present for. Like there's, you don't want to go to war actually. And like Alex Garland doesn't soapbox almost at all during the film.
There's almost no opportunity to.
Yeah. Which is great. The opening, also another good thing about it is the sound design is fantastic.
Yeah, it actually sounded like real guns.
Yeah, that was another gripe I had with Civil War, funnily enough, was that I'm sure, like, provide narrative impact to the gunshots. Like, the AR-15s sounded like a much larger rifle. And I was like, okay, I get it, you're Hollywood. But this one, like, all the guns sounded like the actual calibers they were firing out of the actual gun they were firing.
You know what other movie has really realistic gun sound design?
What?
Our movie.
Yeah. Well, that's because we used like actual blanks out of, the proper caliber. That was
no big deal or anything.
No big deal at all. You should go watch it whenever it comes out.
That's a whole other thing.
Yeah, the release schedule is protracted just because it's such a process.
Yeah. Wrapping up the warfare discussion, I thought it was really good, and that's all I have to say. I just thought it was.
I think it really stuck with me more than you. I don't know why.
No, it obviously did. I don't have anything bad to say about it.
It's a good film.
Yeah. Is it?
I guess to wrap up the sound design, there's a song at the beginning, and that's the only piece of music for the entire film.
And it's a music video.
Yeah, it's a music video, and that's the actual music video that these SEALs would watch before every mission.
Oh, I didn't know that.
They would all get together and do that exact like kind of dancing around and like singing along to the music video.
Gotcha.
And then then they would go into the field. That was like their hype song, which is like really funny.
That is funny.
Like I was like, oh, this is, everybody's like, oh, this is the realest war movie. It's like really like war. But like this was
it is. Yeah, that's part of it.
Yeah, it's like I was really impressed, and it was very well done, and it didn't feel like it was turning SEALs into these super soldiers. First of all, because you see a bunch of them like get blown up and like have a bad time and panic in the face of battle and like not handle things. It's not flattering. From a tactical standpoint, you see them mess up a bunch. From just like a general commentary standpoint, it's not like, they're going in here to die for their country. Like it's like, why are they dying? And this is also sucks, and they're getting shot at a bunch. I thought it was very impactful. One of my top films of the year. And like coming off of Civil War last year, I would never in all the world have paid any amount of money to like bet on that. I was like, there's no way. But that was Warfare. Go watch it. I highly suggest it.
We did our homework.
Yeah.
We hope you did your
We
film
hope
homework.
you did your homework.
And if not, you can join us for next week's film homework.
Next week.
This week's film homework, which is
this week's assignment. Birdman.
I'm excited. Have you seen it?
Michael Keaton. I've not.
I have not either.
It's been on my list forever. This film homework has basically been like an excuse to actually watch these films.
Yeah. Which is perfect because it's. I'll be honest, really hard to get into. Maybe not for you, but for me, really hard to get into the mindset to like want to watch a movie. Like I'll have a backlog, but if I don't have like a reason to like watch any particular one, I just like don't. But this forces me to, and then I end up enjoying it, and I'm glad that I do.
A friend and I do physical movie Netflix where we will mail each other like movies out of our collection, because it's a great excuse to actually go watch these movies. But like sometimes I will sit with a film sitting on my bookshelf for like a month, and I'm like, I need to watch this so I can return it. It's the same for him. You know, he's like, I need to watch this so I can return it. But it takes so much. Like really what it gets to get me to watch a movie, it has to be out in theaters, and I will go and watch it.
You also like an excuse to get out.
I do like an excuse to get out. 12-hour days are not fun. So, but
yeah, I'm personally a bigger fan of 24-hour days.
Boo. But Birdman next week.
I'm
very
excited.
interested in this one because
it's also a oneer, right?
Yeah,
that's the only thing I know about it.
Yeah, it's a oneer, and I believe all the
Charlie
music
Kaufman?
is diegetic. I don't think it's Kaufman. I could be
Is he
wrong.
the writer? Hold on.
I mean, he loves to do a oneer, so
no, it's Kaufman-ish.
Yeah, it's a film that I believe it won the Oscar.
I think so too.
Came close.
Speaking of Kaufman, did you ever watch I'm Thinking of Ending Things?
Yes.
Really good.
Really good.
It's been a while. I was reminded of it
recently. Oklahoma,
recently.
which is why I watched it initially.
I didn't know that actually.
But yeah, it's
probably one of the best like psychological movies I've seen in a while.
Very interesting portrayal of death. I found really good with the
spoil it, bro.
Because he like kills himself, right?
No. Oh yeah.
Yeah. Because this is all basically like a janitor's hallucination as he dies in a
Thanks,
school.
Mateo.
You're welcome. Wait, did you not watch it?
No, I did.
Okay, I was gonna say, hold on a second. But like the pulling out of the ribbon and the interpretive dance of his death, I thought was really good.
It was, yeah.
But a bit of a spoiler.
A super big spoiler.
Huge spoiler. That most people have to end up watching a ending explained video to figure out. But yeah, Kaufman's good. Anyway, Birdman, Warner, Emma Stone, Michael Keaton. All the sound is diegetic. So like when you hear music, it's actually
what about
like
the
being
lighting,
played.
Mateo?
We're getting there. Someday we'll have a diegetic lighting film. Barry Lyndon. Looking forward to it.
Yeah.
Well, this has been your next film. We hope this provided valuable insight on how to start a movie as we ramble through it.
And
hope
also
you found
insights on AI studios and
profitability and Narnia and video games.
Yeah.
It'll be interesting to edit together.
Yeah, for Mateo to edit together. You can if you want.
Yeah, I'll give it a shot. Just I have to figure out how to get the files correctly because
you got to download Final Cut. Final Cut.
I do. I'm so very attached to DaVinci.
What about it?
I don't know.
DaVinci's very good.
It's good. I also recommend it to everybody, so it's kind of like.
Well, me too. I do too.
I mean, like somebody's like, I'm trying to get into video editing. I'm like, don't bother with Premiere. DaVinci does it has the same workflow as Premiere. So like, if you want to like get into things with a Creative Cloud later on, like there you go.
Sure. Get the free trial. I'll sit you down. If it doesn't click for you, I'll accommodate.
It'll click for me. I've used Pro Tools before. If I can use Pro Tools and Waveform, I can use Final Cut.
It's like a minimalist video editing tool.
Yeah.
Resolve's a little maximalist, but I mean, you like maximalist too.
I do love a maximalism. That's why I have 3 monitors right now.
Nice.
I'm gloating right now. These aren't even mine. These are my wife's, but she doesn't need them anymore because she doesn't work from home. So
Until she gets a gaming PC and needs at least one of them.
oh no, she's like I want white monitors for that because she's
like
like
white, white colorway is
yeah. She's like I'm like okay, that's fine. We'll get you a nice like curved one
Hmm.
for gaming. I
don't
can't do
like
curve for
curves.
editing.
No, you definitely can't because that would be bad.
I know a guy that does editing on a curved one, but he does YouTube, so it's not as high stakes.
Would it be bad? It'd be fine, but it's not best practice because
No.
the pixels are kind of. I'm not going to say anything because I'm going to sound like an idiot.
With that, we leave you. I've been Mateo.
I've been Zach.
This has been Your Next Film for creatives by creatives. Go make a movie.
Go make a movie and send it to us. Link in the description.
And send it to us. Link in the description. We'll review it.
All right.
Bye.
Peace out.